The Chicago Bulls start their week off with a much-needed comeback victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. We're going to talk a little bit about that win, how Ayos Dosunmu stepping up big time as a starter for the Chicago Bulls, Dalen Terry's progression and finding a way to impact games, and we're going to look at the week ahead, plus the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. And first up, the Chicago Bulls defeated the New Orleans Pelicans last night in a comeback victory. And that was the most important thing. When you look at it, the Bulls had to come back from a 12-point deficit late in the third quarter to get a 114-106 victory over the New Orleans Pelicans. And that was just the way that the Bulls played this game, I think, is really the determining factor of really kind of what separated this game in a lot of ways for the Chicago Bulls, is that a lot of times when the Bulls, there were several double-digit runs that the Pelicans went on, the Bulls went on to kind of keep that game even. But when the Pelicans went on that last run in the third quarter, that's usually when the Bulls would have kind of not really been able to rally back as a team. We saw this team still dig down defensively and to really create themselves more opportunities and not go away. They started chipping away at that lead, got it down to 8, got it down to that, and then they eventually took that lead and did not let it go. And this was a game that really, that identity we want to see the Chicago Bulls build, we got to see that full force in yesterday's game, and also the balanced attack as well. When you look at it, DeMar DeRozan, 24 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds in this game. Nikola Vucevic with 22 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists. Ayo with 21 points, 8 assists, 3 steals, 3 3-pointers made as well, all important. Coby White overcame a slow start for 16 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals, making some key buckets down the stretch for the Chicago Bulls to really help change that momentum for the Bulls against this Pelicans team. And then the defense that was played as well. This was a game where early in the first half, when the Bulls were, going on those runs, responding to what the New Orleans Pelicans were doing, they set the tone defensively. They were getting out in transition. And this is a team, when you have players like Dalen Terry out there with the Ayos, with the Kobes, getting out in transition is just beautiful to watch. I really wish the Bulls would play with a quicker pace more often, but it's also how you create that pace. You don't want to just to run, right? That's not something that we want the Chicago Bulls team to do, but we do want them to find opportunities to do that. You have players that, while aren't as creative in one-on-one isolation situations, right, are really good in that transition basketball, playing as a team, moving without the ball when they do that consistently. And that was really a determining factor in this game. Alex Caruso with some amazing defense on Zion Williamson to force him to a solid night, right? He still was Zion. Let me be clear there. 19 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds. He had 2 blocks. He still had a very much Zion Williamson night, but he didn't completely kill the Bulls. And the adjustments that the Bulls made on Brandon Ingram as well in this game, which we'll talk about here in a second, were key to the Bulls being able to pull away in that fourth quarter in the game for the Bulls. And so just really good effort from this team overall. Solid production from the bench as well. And we'll talk about Dalen Terry here in a second. But one of the stories on today, outside of, DeMar and Vooch really kind of leading the Bulls in scoring, was Ayos Dosunmu stepping up in a night where Coby White just did not have it going. Coby 5 of 18 from the field. Ayos Dosunmu goes 8 of 15 from the field, 3 of 6 from three-point range in this game, and he talked about it after the game where he said this.
Ayos Dosunmu joining us after the Bulls beat the Pelicans. Ayos, another 20-point effort, another season-high 8 assists. Can you give us a sense of how you're acclimating yourself to this particular style of play? It feels like it's suiting you a lot lately.
Just really pretty much trusting and work, putting a lot of work into my game, and really just...
Oh, no!
Go, boy. Don't electrocute him, baby. I love it.
Oh, don't.
Lawsuit, baby.
Keep him safe, man.
Yeah.
DT always on something right there.
Let me get him back.
Yeah, keep going, man.
Just really pretty much trusting my work and really just believing in myself, my teammates believing in me, believing in God, putting my trust into the Lord, and just going out here and doing whatever He allowed me to do.
Well, it does look like you are content doing whatever Billy Donovan needs you to do, whether it's guarding a guy 6'2" or guarding a guy 6'10" like Brandon Ingram did. I thought you did a great job on him tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he's a phenomenal player. You know, in this league, you got to be matched up with anybody, any size, and that's what I want to hang my hat on, being able to defend multiple positions. And, you know, last night it was Jaylen Brown, and then today you got Brandon Ingram, you know. And that's how it is in this league. You got so much great players, and as the league is evolving, you have multiple different talents at different heights. And I just want to be a player where I can pretty much have my coaches trust me to guard any position.
Well, talk a little bit about the three-point shooting. I thought, you know, last year you got off to a great start. You got hot, and then you kind of went through a cold stretch. But this year, you've been probably the most consistent three-point shooter on the team. Talk a little bit about what you did this summer to get that going the way it is.
A lot of work, early mornings, long nights, a lot of work, a lot of film. It's pretty much just trusting my work. Put a lot of trust into my game, a lot of trust into my jump shot to have it be a threat and help the team this year. A lot of credit to the player development guys here, the work I do at home with my dad and my brother, and pretty much a lot of thanks to the Lord. You know, I pray each and every night just to be able to get better. My motto is getting better 1% each day. And I pray that he allows me to do that and behind doors, then come out here and just trust in my work.
And the thing with Ayo is that he is being called upon when his number is called upon to do more scoring, he's doing that at a much better rate than what he has at almost any other point in his career. But the defense that he played on Brandon Ingram was huge late in that game. When you look at it, Brandon Ingram in the first half of the game had 18 points. He was 7-10 from the field. In the second half of the game, 0 for 6 from the field, only 4 points. Ayos Dosunmu's defense was such an important part in the second half of that game of getting the Bulls back into a position of being able to take this game away and win it. And you cannot overlook that at all from Ayos Dosunmu. Ayos' growth and being able to now have offense that basically matches his defense has been great to see. And Ayos has stepped up, and it's getting to the point now where we can start saying things like Ayos has made a similar step to a leap that Kobe White has played just with his consistency as well. Over the last 15 games, Ayos Dosunmu's averaging over 16 points per game, doing it on over 50% shooting from the field, over 50% shooting from three, and adding in rebounds and assists to that as well. Ayos Dosunmu's out right now getting it, and he is playing and impacting the game in that starter role that I just think you got to spend some time talking about. And so, you know, when I was asked kind of a month ago, right? I can't remember who left the voicemail, but somebody asked if Ayos Dosunmu could be the long-term starter next to Kobe White if and when Zach LaVine is traded. And at that time, I was like, oh, well, you know, Ayos' role is probably better suited coming off the bench. I don't know if he's like really that starter next to Kobe White. Well, I'll tell you what right now. I'm not saying that for sure. That's what the Bulls do because you do need bench scoring. But if the Bulls came into next season and they did move on from Zach LaVine in the offseason, which has its own issues with actually happening, but if your starting backcourt next season is Ayos Dosunmu and Kobe White, that is a backcourt I'm excited to see how they balance it out over the course of a season. And this is more than just hot shooting from Ayos Dosunmu. Ayos has absolutely been killing it this season, been consistent in his defense, been consistent when he's called upon offensively, and that 50% shooting from three is not going to maintain more than likely. But the fact that his three-pointer has become a legitimate weapon for a player that just wasn't like he always shot a solid percentage from three, but he wasn't a volume shooter for three. We're now seeing Ayos add that volume in to shooting the three ball as well, and that's helping change the Chicago Bulls defense. With the offense, you know that the Bulls, we talk about it so frequently, they're way behind the pack as far as in the NBA as far as three-pointers. Ayos Dosunmu hitting it, and if Kobe gets back in rhythm as well, those are going to help those things go. So this was a night where the Chicago Bulls came in short-handed, as did the New Orleans Pelicans as well, missing C.J. McCollum. But the Bulls were able to combat it and play enough. And Alex Caruso's defense on Zion in key moments, while it wasn't throughout the whole game, and Zion's a physical specimen and a beast, his defense throughout that game and in key moments on Zion Williamson really helped dictate that game as well. And so this was a really good team win. This was a really good win to see from our Chicago Bulls. And let's hope that they can build upon it. Now, in talking about building upon this play, one player in particular I want to see continue to build upon what they've been doing, and that is Dalen Terry. Against the Pelicans, Dalen Terry made the most of it, having a team-high plus-minus of plus 17 in only 15 minutes that he played. Yes, he only scored 2 points of 1 on 4 shooting, but you have to watch this game to understand the impact that Dalen Terry had specifically defensively and playmaking. He is showing that kind of raw prototype that we saw from Dalen Terry, the raw skills that he really kind of looked like a deer in the headlights last season with, he's showing that he can do that now in the NBA level and is impacting a game in a positive way, attacking closeout, making the right pass at the right time, getting steals there and creating opportunities in transition for the Chicago Bulls. It's special. While he can't create his own offense yet, and we'll see how that shot continues to develop for him over his NBA career, but one thing that Dalen Terry is doing consistently is making an impact now. And in a time where we're missing Torrey Craig, where we're missing Patrick Williams, this is an opportunity for Dalen Terry to show why he deserves minutes and to get on the court consistently for the Chicago Bulls. And hopefully Billy Donovan continues rewarding him while he's playing this way. Because Dalen is, again, it's not going to be the stat sheet stuffer for you, right? But Dalen is flashing an ability to positively impact the game, and it's even caught the eye of his teammate Alex Caruso. Caruso saying this: every time in the NBA you get an opportunity, you do one of two things. You either take it and flourish, or you kind of hold you back and you don't take that next step. I think everybody on this team that is going to get this opportunity is good enough to take that next step and flourish. Alex Caruso also shipping this: I'm a prime example of that when I was in LA. Lonzo got hurt the first time, and Rajon Rondo was hurt a little bit, and I just had to grind and take my 7 and 8 minutes and turn that into 10 to 12, turn that into 10 to 12, into 15, turn that into 20, and ended up starting Game 6 of the finals. Everything that they want is in front of them. It's just about them taking the opportunity, and that is what Dalen Terry is doing right now for the Chicago Bulls. He is seizing the opportunity that's in front of him and playing and showing. He's proven his doubters wrong. A lot of people last year wanted to write Dalen Terry off as a bust because he didn't play much, and when he did play, he didn't look good, right? And as I keep telling and using my platform to tell people is that we got to stop writing the story on players and trying to dictate who players are and who they can be so early in their NBA career. You would think that we would have learned from that, from Larry, from Kobe, to other players as well. Daniel Gafford, who's went away, right, and come back. Bobby Portis, who always showed some things, but look at what Bobby Portis has turned into. We as Bulls fans have to stop. We have to cut the crap and stop being willing to give up on our young players because they don't hit some predetermined a milestone that we think that they should hit at a certain point in time or look a certain way that we think they should look. Now, I'm not saying that everybody gets this unlimited time to develop and grow. No, that is not what I'm saying. But I am saying that it does take time for players, and especially with AK drafting these raw prospect players that are going to need a lot of time to develop, you have to give it that time. You have to give it that you have to give them that time to develop and also carve out a role. It's really hard to develop your skill set in your game when you don't even have a role. Dalen Terry right now, his role is just simply coming off the bench and being the energy guy, playing solid defense, getting out in transition. His passing game in transition is some of the best. Dalen Terry right now is impacting the game of basketball. The stat sheet isn't jumping out for you in any stretch of the imagination, and it's not going to. That's not what his role is right now. But what he's doing, the things that he's doing well, are helping the Chicago Bulls win games, period. And we want to see that continue for him. We want to see that continue for the Bulls. And listen, he's not done rounding out offensively yet either, right? He's only gotten to work a partial postseason with our offseason, I should say, with our development coach, Peter Patton. And he's already, you can definitely tell he's helped change Dalen Terry's shot considerably. And so with Dalen Terry, getting to work more with our player development staff and continue to get those opportunities to develop, that's what we want to see from him. That's what we want to see from all these guys. And I think if that continues for this team, we're going to be in an amazing position and in a great place to be able to continue what we're doing. And so, listen, Dalen Terry, in the season where we talk about the growth of Io, that we talk about the growth of Kobe White, Dalen Terry is now laying out a foundation of learning how he can impact the game of basketball. And by doing that, he can now go into the mindset with the mentality of, these are the things I did well. These are how I'm going to get better in these things. And these are the other things that I can add to my game to complement what I'm already doing well and to have some confidence going into the offseason for the Chicago Bulls. And that is when you're going to start seeing something special out of Dalen. People have made comparisons to like Tony Allen and things like that. And I do think right now, with what Dalen Terry has shown and gotten the opportunity to show, that's a fair comparison for him. And we'll get to see how that continues to grow for Dalen Terry as well. But next up, we're going to talk about the Bulls schedule ahead, and we got the mailbag. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you guys. Well, we got a message from one of our sponsors, and that's Aura. I'm sure most of you know anyone can find anything on the internet, including your full legal name and personal email, your home address, phone number, and even your relatives. For me, personally, I never took this kind of stuff seriously, that people can take my personal data and use it for their own financial gain. Well, in 2019, I got my identity stolen, including my social security number and credit card information, and it was a total nightmare getting it all sorted out. From recouping loans that were taken out in my name and shopping sprees on my credit card, there are some really bad people out there, and it's sad to say, but it's true. Do a Google search for your personal information or someone you know and see if a people search site shows up. The information is easily accessible because of data brokers who profit by selling your information to robocallers, telemarketers, spammers, and anyone else that wants to learn more about you. And so for me, protecting my and my family's personal data and information is at the utmost importance because of the terrible experience I had 4 years ago. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. Aura will identify data brokers that are exposing your information and automatically submit opt-out requests on your behalf. They will even opt out of junk mail and telemarketing lists. Aura also monitors your emails and passwords to see if they're involved in any data breach and exposed on the dark web. Aura's app also features VPN password manager, real-time credit card and identity theft monitoring, internet parental controls, and protects your device from malware. Aura has almost every internet safety tool you'll ever need, all inside one app, which is what makes it so amazing, so that you don't have to use multiple platforms and sites to protect yourself. Let Aura do the hard work, keeping you safe online. And if you sign up right now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial with my link below. You'll be shocked at how much your private information Aura finds exposed over 2 weeks. I was shocked at how much my information Aura was able to find when I was using the app. Go to aura.com/CBC to start your free trial. Also linked in the description, or you can scan the QR code here. Now back to the video.
All right, so the week ahead for the Chicago Bulls, even though we already played one game on Sunday, we still have 3 home games in a row against the Detroit Pistons, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Milwaukee Bucks. And these are going to be important games for the Chicago Bulls. Am I expecting them to win all these games? No. Now, the Detroit Pistons game, you better take care of business against the Detroit Pistons, right? The worst team in the league per record. You better take care of business against the Pistons. We cannot have the playing down to our competition. Yes, I know it's been a tough schedule. Yes, I know DeMar and Kobe led the league in minutes played, but the Detroit Pistons, you got to take care of that business. They've only won 8 games on the season. They're 8-48. Let's take care of that business against the Detroit Pistons. But then the 2 games after that we have are games that you really have to look at and say these are playoff atmosphere type games for sure. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a team that always plays the Bulls tough. We have trouble getting victories against the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks. These are the number 2 and number 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. And while I'm not saying that the Bulls should be favored or predicted to win or anything, it's going to be an uphill battle, especially when you look at the fact that we're missing Patrick Williams and Torrey Craig. It's going to, like, the fact that the Bulls are going in there undersized, they're going to go in with a small lineup against 2 teams that do play traditional lineups. We're probably going to see some of Andre Drummond and Vooch out there together against both these teams. But watching the adjustments from Billy Donovan as well, I got to give credit to Billy Donovan in the game against the New Orleans Pelicans. He made some key adjustments defensively in that second half of the game that helped the Bulls win. Billy Donovan has to call a good game against these teams. He has to have this team prepared, and if he doesn't, it's going to be a long night against both those games, and this week can very much so end up 2-2 with the Bulls winning against the Pelicans and the Detroit Pistons, but losing against the Cavs and the Bucks. The Bulls right now, with the standings in the Atlanta Hawks right now, who did win their game last night despite Trae Young being out for 4 weeks. And despite that, the Atlanta Hawks you still don't want to create too much opportunity for them to catch up on you. We've seen teams before definitely still go and rally on for wins after losing their start. Now, how long they can keep that up, of course, is a fair and valid question. But the Atlanta Hawks sit there 2 games below the Chicago Bulls. And you still have the Brooklyn Nets that right now are 5.5 games below the Chicago Bulls as well. But the Bulls you do not want to have these long losing streaks that are going to allow those teams to close the gap on you. So again, nobody's expecting the Chicago Bulls to be this team that's much better than the Cleveland Cavaliers and Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think anybody's going to favor the Bulls to win against those 2 teams, but you do want to take care of business, and how you perform in those games is going to go a long part into kind of showing and your fan base and everything else on how you can perform against those teams. So the Bulls got to be locked in, right? This is not an easy stretch for the Chicago Bulls, and it really doesn't get any easier. If anything, it gets more difficult leading into March over that. So this is why you got to win games against teams like the Detroit Pistons. You have to win that game for the Chicago Bulls. There's not an excuse to lose that game at all, because if you do, you're going to find yourself
That puts yourself in a deficit against a team that you're much better than and should be in. Now, those teams against the Cavs and Bucks, again, you're going to probably see those that more of that Vooch and Drum lineup together in certain matchups in those games. I don't know if Billy Donovan goes back to starting those guys together against those teams, but he could absolutely, right? And you have to find a way to perform well and build off at least the confidence of performing against those playoff teams. That's going to be a big part of what players and of fans and everything look at and how this team can really compete down the stretch of this game. People are doubting the Chicago Bulls right now. And while I'm not saying anything like we should clear the week, we're going to clear the Cavs and the Milwaukee Bucks, not saying that at all, but how you perform against these teams, especially at home, tells a lot about the resolve of your team, the mental makeup of your team. And when you're a team that's trying to forge ahead and to get into that play-in tournament and to hold on to your spot, listen, those are important games. And like I said, it does not get any easier for the Chicago Bulls at all. When you look at even after facing the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks, after that, we got San Antonio, Utah, Golden State, the Clippers, Dallas, the Indiana Pacers, the Clippers again, and then we don't have easy games again until facing the Washington Wizards and Portland Trailblazers on March 16th and 18th. This is an extremely difficult stretch for the Chicago Bulls where they're playing all playoff teams, basically, playoff caliber teams. And so how you perform over this stretch is going to be important. You want to steal some of these games. And this is why when you hear people like Korn, who we got a voicemail from, and other people say that they're worried about the Chicago Bulls because of that start of Munch, that is a murderer's row for the Chicago Bulls. Now, what I will say is after that, while we still have some difficult games on the schedule after that, it really does ease up towards the end of March and the beginning of April for the Bulls, but it still stays tough for the Bulls overall. This finish to the season, if the Bulls continue inching closer, getting wins where they can, right? The 3 games below 500 right now. They're predicted to win 36, 37 games on the season. The Bulls are in a position to definitely blow those expectations out the water. But the personal expectations for the team, like I said, while you're trying to build your identity, while you're trying to build your edge going forth into the playoffs, this is an important stretch for the Chicago Bulls, and let's see how they can perform in that. With that said, we got one voicemail that we're going to play today. This one's from my brother Korn.
Hey, what's good, King? It's Korn. I wanted to get something right. I think you misheard or misread what I was saying with the last mailbag, and that's my fault if I worded it wrong. That's my apology, King, on that. But I wasn't saying Lonzo was the key, like he's the key. 3 years ago, before the injury, he was the key component. Now we know he is. Now we know he's fine. I ain't meant like he was the key like that. He ain't gonna be that when he come back or anything. I'm saying that he's the key component for when they move on from his contract. Because to me, I don't know why Acme is still holding on to this man. But I always felt like once they finally move on and move Lonzo's contract, that's when they're gonna start making the moves with I believe Zach and DeMar Drummond, whatever. But that's what I meant like by that. I always felt like he is now the key component of the reason why Acme is trying to keep this team together, and they shouldn't do that. I know you heard me when I said on my last one that I feel like Acme is now, to me, worse than Garden Pax. They got to prove something to me. Until then, to me, they worse than Garden Pax. But I didn't mean it like Lonzo the Key. Lonzo, even if he does come back and play ball, he ain't going to be the key anymore. He's not going to be the Lonzo that we know and all that. I know that. And, unless he's, whatever if he does and, some miracle, he do the Adrian Peterson and, come back, then okay, but I don't feel like he's not, like I said, this man lucky to be walking around doing that and everything else, like D Rose said one day, he was at the point that he was like, you know what, I don't want to play like this because I want to walk my son or my daughter down the marriage, so I still want to have my legs. So that's where I think Lonzo at. I don't think Lonzo the Kid anything on the court or whatever, but for wherever for the players to start getting moved, he is the key component contract. Once we move on from Lonzo, we can finally see Acme start making the moves that they should. But I think first they have to move on from that contract. And again, I don't know why they holding on to that contract, but appreciate you, King. Like always, man, my bad if I, misled or said something that, because I don't think he's a kid anything anymore, King. Bless.
Hey, Corn, I got to admit to you, I absolutely did think that you meant like Lonzo was still the key to the team. Now, if you're saying his contract's the key, I completely agree with that. And, when you look at what the Bulls may do with Lonzo Ball's contract, there's a lot of different options that they have in front of them in that, right? So they do have the option if Lonzo is not ready to go. If he tries to ramp up again to get cleared before the start of the season, the Bulls absolutely can still file for that career-ending injury exception. Now, that does take some time to review, so the Bulls would want to time that if they want to try to use that additional $20 million that would be added to their cap space in the case that they do that, they would have to try to make that determination on filing that basically after the draft to give them enough time to get it cleared before the start of free agencies when the Bulls would have to at least know that they're going to try to file for that, right? And that is an opportunity that's ahead of the Bulls. Now, if Lonzo is ready to go, and I do think that the first priority is going to be Lonzo getting back on the court, just from what I know from AK and what he's shown, I think that that's going to be the first thing. Regardless of the level that he's able to play, if Lonzo's cleared by the medical staff, the Bulls are gonna work him into their rotation. They're going to see he's going to be on a minutes restriction. They're going to try to play him. But if there's any inclination or indication that Lonzo Ball may not be ready to play for the 2024 season, I don't care if they say, hey, he may be ready to go by January. If there's any indication at the start that he's not going to be ready to go, to me, the Bulls would be smart to file for that career-ending injury exception, get that money added back to their books, which could create some relief from the luxury tax, which they're right up against, to keep some of their own free agents, to go after some other free agents, to use some of the other exceptions that they have out there. That is a key thing, and hopefully the Bulls make the right decision. I understand the attachment to Lonzo, the fact that you brought him in, and that is something that AK does have to players that he brought in, but it got to be about business first. And if Lonzo, for any reason, is not ready to go by the start of the NBA season, to me, you got to file that exception. You got to get that money off the books. That's going to free you up. Even if you do kind of miss the free agent window by the time it gets cleared, that allows you maybe at the deadline to absorb a contract into that cap space, right? That allows you to potentially, and when you move Zach LaVine, take a little bit more salary back if needed to facilitate that deal, right? It opens up a lot for the Chicago Bulls. So I think they'd be remiss to really not explore that. And I'm glad that you added that clarity because, yeah, getting off Lonzo's contract, if and when the Bulls are able to do that, whether it's, this offseason through the career-ending injury exception or it's next offseason with the contract expiring, that's probably when the Bulls are going to make a move again in free agency or even in trade market to absorb some salary. But great voicemail from Corn on that one. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.